the importance of emotional intelligence is really, how do we cope? If we have emotional intelligence, and like we talked about all the way back, we're seeing the value in every aspect of our lives, in our personal relationships, in our work relationships, in every aspect of our life is directed by our emotion. And it's really all about intensity. How intense is the emotion? Sometimes it's so minuscule, we just go about our business. But sometimes that emotion is the forefront, and we have to know how to deal with it.
Well, hello, future CRNA. I have some exciting news to share with you today. We have just released the Nurse Anesthesia Educators Unplugged, which is going to be your gateway to success. I want you to discover the inside scoop. I want you to be able to navigate the complexities of CRNA admissions and thrive as a candidate and as a nurse anesthesia resident, which can seem like a really daunting task. But what if you had a trusted guide at your fingertips? Which is why we're excited to introduce the Nurse Anesthesia Educators Unplugged, which is CSPA's private podcast, your one-stop auditory guide to achieving your CRNA dreams. The key benefits and features of this private podcast will be hearing directly from the experts, listen to seasoned CRNA faculty members who know the admissions process inside and out, get invaluable insights not found in brochures or websites. You're going to hear from behind the scenes and discover the lesser known details of the selection process, traits that faculty look for in candidates, and the hidden pitfalls to avoid. Also knowing that all schools are a little unique, and this is going to give you that invaluable insight that's going to allow you to see the differences between different CRNA programs and the faculty that run these programs. You're going to hear real stories, hear from successful students who have been in your shoes, learn about their challenges and strategies and what made them stand out. You're going to get strategic advice. So beyond grades, how can you learn to craft a compelling application, such as for your essay or your interview responses that really will resonate with the admissions teams? You're also going to get flexible learning. You can listen to this podcast on your commute, during your workouts, or even while cooking. So we want this learning to fit your schedule. You're going to hear a lot of Q&As on these podcasts. These questions and answers are found in our private CSPA community. So again, we pick questions that are commonly asked from CSPA students, and we bring them to the table during this faculty podcast. So it's a great way to hear commonly asked questions from a variety of faculty and different insights on that. We also want you to stay up to date. The admissions landscape is always changing, so we want to make sure that you're updated on the latest trends and requirements and strategies for success. And then last but not least, we want to help you build confidence. Knowing what to expect and how to prepare can dramatically increase your confidence, giving you the edge during the application interview process. So I hope this sounds exciting to you. I hope you're as pumped as I am to tune into these shows. And remember, if you're a CSPA student, you're going to have access to this private podcast. But don't worry, we want to make sure we're not excluding anyone from this podcast. And so on occasion, we're going to share sneak peeks with you, our regular CSPA listeners, because again, I want everyone to succeed. And whether you're a CSPA member for 12 months or for a short period of time, if you are a member, you're going to have access to the entire library of private CSPA faculty podcasts. So again, this is a really valuable resource that we are excited to bring to you today. And I want to just leave you with the conclusion that whether or not you're contemplating CRNA career or you're already deep in the application process, this Nurse Anesthesia Educators Unplugged is your secret weapon to equip yourself with the knowledge, strategies, and confidence to stand out. So I hope you enjoy the sneak peek. Let's go ahead and get into today's episode.
We're really seeing that EI, emotional intelligence, is intertwined in really every aspect of our training and our practice within the healthcare setting. And that's why it really is so important of a topic to hit on, to understand, and really to build on. Now, you mentioned it, and I know we do it also within our program. I've talked with other administrators within nurse anesthesia programs. We are loving these EI questions. There's so much that really we can gain from an EI question, right? Versus being able to just ask somebody, how does levofed work within the body? We gain so much more insight and information. What are some of those EI questions that they can expect, not just for obviously interviews at South College if they apply there, but just in general EI questions for nurse anesthesia programs?
So two of my favorite that I love to ask, and I began asking them in 2015, two very simple ones. Tell me about something that embarrasses you and how do you handle it? And the other one is, what makes you angry? And what do you do about the anger? And I cannot tell you how many people will say, oh, I don't get angry. Anger is not something I do. And, I always think it's interesting because it's a core emotion that we have. So we all get angry, but how do you handle it? And I have appreciated those that are very candid that say, oh, I got angry. And yes, I can, but here's what I do. Here's how I handle it. I recognize that. And that's very interesting. It's very telling to me. When you start out of the gate and you already tell me, oh, I don't get angry. No, it just does not happen. I get frustrated, but I don't get angry. And I always say, everybody can get angry. It's a core emotion. So it's interesting to go down that path and then see how somebody responds. The embarrassing one, I've had some of the best stories, and that are really stories that if they're truly willing to share how they were embarrassed. But those are some of the questions. I have somebody also say, oh, can I think about that and get back to you on that? Which I find interesting. Some of my other favorites are, tell me a pet peeve. Tell me one of your pet peeves that you have. And then how do you handle, what do you do about that pet peeve? It can be very telling about behavior and viewpoints and their, how they handle themselves or how they respond and reflect upon others that they are with. Conflict is a great one. How do you handle conflict? And tell me about a time you had conflict within your professional practice. And another one I liked is, tell me about a preceptor that you worked with or a time you were precepting someone and there was conflict or an issue arose. How did you handle that? So there are some really great ones. Tell me how you cope with stress, because that's really important. And that goes back to what we were talking about, the importance of emotional intelligence is really, how do we cope? If we have emotional intelligence, and like we talked about all the way back, we're seeing the value in every aspect of our lives, in our personal relationships, in our work relationships, in every aspect of our life is directed by our emotion. And it's really all about intensity. How intense is the emotion? Sometimes it's so minuscule, we just go about our business. But sometimes that emotion is the forefront. And we have to know how to deal with it. But imagine this, Dr. Wilson. Imagine that we do go back and we do train EI all the way back through high school, but more so in nursing education. And then by the time candidates get to us, they've already got that core foundation that they've worked with and worked on adapting. It will help better set them up for the stressors, the rigor of nurse anesthesia school, especially now being a minimum of 3 years. That's a lot of stress and pressure on many and on their families, which is why it leads me into saying stress, wellness, all is also integrated into that, because who has the highest suicidal ideation percentage in our profession? Our residents, our students do. So it'll be very interesting to watch some of the newer literature come out. And I know some of it has begun to. But again, if we can become resilient and adaptable and know how to handle emotion from within ourselves and with others, we can adapt better to handling nurse anesthesia school. But you know what else we can do? We can figure out who really is a better fit for this profession. Because if you go back to the candidate I told you about that threw the clipboard down and walked out, what if we would have never have assessed emotional intelligence? What if we would have just left it clinically based objective measures and looking at that? We might not have known that about that personality or about that candidate until the clinical time.
Well, hello, future CRNA. I wanted to share another daily dose of inspiration from a highlight from our community. This big shout out goes to Taylor. Congratulations on your CRNA acceptance. Thank you so very much for sharing your story. I was accepted into program. Again, I don't disclose that. I wanted to thank the Academy for all the resources in this community for the support and advice.
They specifically asked me about being a member of CRNA School Prep Academy in my interview and asked how I think it benefited me. This was my first year applying, and I only applied to 2 schools. I got interviews at both. I believe this program really put me ahead of other candidates and showed my determination and growth. Thank you. Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate those sweet words and your testimonial, as well as your story. It's so inspiring, and I'm so incredibly grateful to have you be a part of our community. Cheers to your future. I'm rooting for you. Let's go ahead and get back into today's show.
So that's all great stuff. And it brings up, as I'm thinking about it, that this EI questionnaires that we use, right, or the EI questions we use within the admissions process really allows us to select candidates, select individuals that are going to be great students for the program, great classmates to each other, hopefully, and also great colleagues as we move into the CRNA profession. So it really is helping from beginning to end. Now, one of the things you did mention was, said it several times, was about growing that EI, or about recognizing and being able to kind of be better at your EI. What are those resources? What are some of those resources that exist, whether it's podcasts, whether it's lectures, programs? What are better ways or the best ways that you have found of improving EI?
So one of the things that I found, and so it's a book I always talk about, and it's a book I have all of my residents read. And I'm going to show you the book. I do not get paid. I am just in love with this book. And the reason why is because it's a little book that really can grow you in all aspects. It comes with 2 emotional intelligence tests. So it allows you basically to take it twice. One, to get the baseline establishment, and then it gives you all these key factors or principles or points on how to better yourself. But one of the things that I love that it also talks about is finding yourself an EI mentor, finding yourself someone who has worked on emotional intelligence to mentor you and to work with you on this. And I think that is very important. It's one of the biggest tidbits I tell people, sharpen up on your drugs, sharpen up on your monitors, sharpen up on all of that is great. Do some work on emotional intelligence as well, too. You will benefit greatly from it. So this one is my favorite book. Okay, you have to, I'm sure you know it. I promoted it at the conference. I promote it every chance I get, every office hour chance I get. It's by Travis Bradbury and Jean Greaves, but within here too, it breaks down, some of the categories, and some of those core categories are things like personal competence. And personal competence looks at self-awareness and self-management. That's all about me. And then it looks at social competence, and that looks at social awareness. So how I am with other people and understanding other people. Can I pick up on body clues, or anything like that? Eye rolls. Do I know when to stop talking? Do I know when I can keep going? And then it really brings those big 3 pieces together into relationship management, and really looking at what kind of relationships do you have overall? And how are they? So I think the book is excellent because everything you just asked me and about it being trainable, I've had a lot of great benefit from this book personally.
All right. Well, that sums up today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys found that so valuable. And I look forward to, again, sharing some more golden nuggets with you guys in the future. Again, if you're a CSPA member, there will be an entire section inside the Academy that's labeled Nurse Anesthesia Educators Unplugged podcast. It will be inside the membership. So again, you log into your membership to have access to this. Again, you can play this on audio whenever you are driving or cooking or folding laundry, whatever fits your learning style. Again, we hope you guys find a lot of value in these episodes, and we're excited for future episodes to share with you. And until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Please be sure to share that if CSPA podcast has been helpful for you in your CRNA journey, I would so very much appreciate it if you were able to share this valuable podcast with others that you know who are embarking on their CRNA journey. I call it paying it forward. So again, if this has been a valuable resource for you, a valuable tool on your own CRNA journey, I would so greatly appreciate it if you were able to share it with someone else down the road, even if you don't know anyone right now. Keep us in mind to make sure you send people our way, because again, we want to help you find success. We want to help your peers find success. So cheers to your future, and thank you so much. And until next time, take care. Hey, future CRNA, as always, I appreciate you and your loyalty. Thank you so very much for tuning in this week. I'd love to hear from you, so screenshot this episode and share it to your IG stories with your biggest takeaway. Don't forget to tag me at CRNA School Prep Academy so I can personally thank you. Be sure to head over to CRNASchoolPrepAcademy.com to check out our blog and gather free resources to help you along your CRNA journey. Stay strong, and I'll see you next week.